doing, Daddy? Like,
Halloween can trace its roots back to the pre-Christian era in Ireland. Ireland is on the continent of England. Back in the day, it was mainly a druid type situation. Druids were these old men who walked around in these weird little capes, kind of like Mr. Chad was earlier. It was really neat to watch these guys work because it was just basically they were celebrating the harvest festival. Summer's leaving and the fall is coming. That's where the colors of the orange, where the leaves turned to orange, and black meant death because all the crops were dying. It's a really interesting story how this came about. It was actually a pagan holiday, and everybody celebrated it like pagans. And then roughly about the time of 600 AD, the Catholic missionaries decided, you know what, we're going to go ahead and try to make these druids and these ancient people conform to our ways. But they were smart about it. They went ahead and they said, well, let's go ahead and take these people and try to show them the ways of Christianity. But let's try not to just crush all their rituals. Let's keep their rituals up. So what they did was they took their rituals, All Hallows Eve, Samhain, Halloween, and they formed it into kind of a Christian type holiday, followed by a real Christian holiday, All Saints Day, November 1st. It's really interesting. And all of these things came into play whenever time went on, and Halloween was Halloween like we know it today. Back then, people would put on masks and stuff, but it wasn't the same. It was mainly animal skins and animal heads. You know, it's because they didn't want to see like a thinly layered veil on this day, tonight. The thin layered veil is the way that the dead can cross over into the living's world. So what they did was they put on these costumes like we have on right now. They take these costumes and so they can blend in with the dead, so the dead wouldn't take them with them back to wherever they came from. So that's why we wear costumes. And see, it all came about a long, long time ago. And it fast forwards all the way to about 15 to 1600 France, where this actually became popular. Wearing stuff like this and going trick-or-treating comes later on, whenever the Irish people came over from the potato famine to the United States. In 1950, that was just what, 60 years ago, 63 years ago? We didn't even have trick-or-treating door to door. It wasn't a thing that we did. And now, when they came over here, they decided that in around 1950, Walt Disney, who's some other, Little House on the Prairie, all these old TV shows made Halloween what it is today. Going door to door, trick or treat. The treat part came in, if you don't give me a treat, then I'm going to play a trick on you. And that meant we're going to egg your house. We're going to toilet paper your house. We're going to ding-dong ditch, whatever the case may be. Now, how did all of these things come about? Where did bonfires come from? That's an interesting story. Who knows what a bonfire is? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Bonfires came on the eve of Samhain. Young people would go to and from a house, and they would collect all these things, and they would make a big old fire to burn as a sacrifice so that evil spirits wouldn't come and get them. But what about black cats? Everybody ever seen black cats? Black cats, it was often a symbol of bad luck. Black cat crossed your path, right? See, all these little things started kind of going with each other into what we know as Halloween today. Who knows what a witch is? Witches' brooms. You think of witches as evil. Well, back then, they were little old ladies who really couldn't walk that good. They were kind of like a cast-out member of society. So they'd walk with a walking stick, and in some cases a broom. And over time, history and cultures took the witch, made her ugly and evil, and now she rides on a broom. See how all this comes into play? It's pretty neat. What about the jack-o'-lanterns? Anybody know what those are? You know the first jack-o'-lantern wasn't a jack-o'-lantern at all, it was a turnip. They took a turnip and they hollowed it out and they cut a hole in it and they put a light in there, candle, and they carried it around as a lantern. And that's how it came to be. But there's an old story. How did it become a jack-o'-lantern? Well, this thief named Jack was being chased by a bunch of townspeople. And the devil ran up to him and he said, You're coming with me. I'm taking your soul because you're a thief. So he went ahead and said, devil, please transform yourself into a coin so I can pay these people and they won't hurt me. You can go into their houses and take all their souls. So what the devil didn't know is Jack was a little bit smart. Jack went ahead and kept that coin, never spent it. And so all of a sudden when Jack did die, he couldn't go to hell. Satan wouldn't allow it. He couldn't go to heaven. God wouldn't allow it. So he was forced to roam around forever and ever. And that's where jack-o'-lanterns came from, the name jack-o'-lantern. He walked around with a turnip, just like this, with a burning ember from hell as his light for the rest of his days. He still haunts to this day. This night especially.
My kids aren't going to sleep, thanks.
What about bobbing for apples? We just did that, didn't we? In ancient times, the apple was viewed as a sacred fruit. Sacred fruit, new beginnings. People would bob for them just to get good luck. Variations. Another Halloween ritual involved looking in the mirror at midnight by candlelight for a future of your husband's face. Women would peel an apple, throw the core over, and look in the mirror and hope to see their husband's face. You know what this turned out to be later on? Bloody Mary. Remember that one?
That was Bloody Mary?
That's how it came about. What about religious views of Halloween? Religious views of Halloween, I'm going to go the Catholic route and the evangelical route. The evangelicals thought the carved pumpkin originated with the witch's use of a collection of skulls with a candle in each to light the way of the coven meetings. It's not true. Samhain. As darkness set on October 31st, the clan of Druids would put their white robes and hoods on. They would carry sickles and Celtic crosses and would begin the torchlight processions. It's not true. They would use treats to lure female victims who were taken to Stonehenge when they were killed, and then sacrificed on the sacred bonfire until only glowing embers remained left. So that was their treat. They would offer up a slave, and if they didn't get a slave in return, they would go take a woman and instead use her as their sacrifice. The Catholics, like I mentioned before, had it all right. They went ahead and said, let's fold their traditions in with our traditions and we can make it one. And they made it work. So that's how all these things came into play throughout history. And now, in 2013, we're all dressed up. We all go trick-or-treating door to door. We eat cookie, cake, and gumbo, and we have a good time. Thank you.